Alright, getting the stream started again. It's Saturday afternoon here. Doing something a little bit different. So, I've been hinting at this in a couple of the previous streams that I've had a project which is still, as you can see, kind of in the early stages to get my kind of messy streaming setup moved from this pile of computers in a bit of nominal kitchen furniture into kind of a proper equipment rack. So I think for a lot of that, I'm actually going to do some kind of lo-fi stream where I end up taking apart this rack and then rebuilding the equipment largely on stream if I can. So that's what the laptop over here is set up for. And this is partly made possible by how the laptop was until recently actually a critical part of my streaming infrastructure because that was running the audio. But now I have the audio and the video all running on one of the PCs in that pile there, which is the one that you see on that top monitor. So over here, that's Open Broadcaster. You can also see I can switch over here to Ableton Live, and if I highlight this channel, we should be able to see me talking in the wireless mic. So yeah, this is the wireless headset that I'm talking in right now. Here's the room microphone. So I use this for a few different things. I use it to do multi-track audio recordings for editing. I'm not going to bother with that right now since I don't think I'm going to use this audio. Plus, I've got a bunch of files I'm currently copying out of the same directory, so just to make things a little easier to keep separate, I'm not going to record right now, but I would use this for recording. You can also see I set up filter chains for things like compression and equalizers in this environment. So this manages to route the audio to a couple of different places. I have mixed audio going out from here to all the video recorders, which I use to keep the video in sync as much as I can. And then I've also got mixed audio going out from Ableton through a virtual audio cable back into OBS where it actually gets streamed. So, oh yeah, and just responding to, I think that's Anera JB in chat, who says, "Ooh, I wanted to ask you about your setup, so if this is a stream of the rack and streaming stuff, that'd be great." So yeah, that's mostly what I'm getting at. I'm going to be doing some initial steps in this, since I was starting to set this up so that I could do the stream from this kind of lo-fi rig over here. So it turns out, it also turns out that I bumped the focus pretty easily. Sorry about that. So that's my laptop. Normally, I mean, that would have been kind of tied up doing the audio, but now it's back to being a normal laptop, which I'm really happy about. Alfie says, "I'm comb filtering a lot. Is there a large flat surface behind the microphone?" You might be hearing the fact that I've got two microphones this time. So if I walk over here, you'll probably only hear so much one microphone. Yeah, that might be something to deal with. So I was trying to get my face in the camera, but you probably can't quite hear that. So I'm using my wireless headset this time because I'm probably going to be wandering around the shop a bit. And this probably has some filtering artifacts that you're going to be hearing. Let me just take a listen to that on headphones to see if it's worse than I expect it to be. I don't even know where to put that camera right now. So this should be basically the same. Yeah, I think I hear what you're talking about. Maybe I should just try muting the boom mic and see if that is an improvement or if it just doesn't sound as good. I actually have to hold this on my other ear so I can get to Ableton. So if I mute that microphone, I think that's an improvement. That's just coming from the wireless mic on my headset. That won't be as good at just capturing random shop environmental stuff, but at least as far as I can tell just from listening to the headphone while I'm talking, I think that's an improvement. So maybe we'll go with that on the stream. Let me know what you think. Let's go back to OBS a little. Yeah, so no, I understand the mechanism here with the two microphones and the combination having destructive and constructive interference. I just didn't really care that much since I figured I wouldn't be standing right here by the desk for very much of the stream. So, yeah, understand, just don't care that much. I do care about this being in focus, but I'm also going to be moving this around somewhat. So anyway, I think I can put the headphone down. That is also one advantage of having more of the audio setup over here, because previously I had the audio running on my laptop, which was over there on that desk, so it was hard to actually make adjustments like that. I think this might be an improvement. So anyway, my laptop is free now, so I think the next stream where I get a little bit more in depth here, let me show you, let me open up my laptop in just a sec. Yeah, so I was putting together a little lo-fi streaming setup here. So, there's the camera. So this is what we'll be using. Oh, can I get that a little closer? This is what we will be using in a sec. This is a MacBook Air. I could not get this thing to run a 1080p stream. It just doesn't seem to have enough CPU for it. But 720p at a pretty low bitrate it seems fine with. So I think that's what we'll be doing. So this is very minimal. This is just Open Broadcaster on a MacBook Air with wired Ethernet, since I think the Wi-Fi is way too flaky for this. And then one USB port for the webcam over there on a stick, and one for this little Zoom microphone, which I'll be using for the audio. So really minimal setup, but something I can use while I'm working on the other setup, and it's made from parts I had laying around. This is the audio recorder I was using for a lot of my earlier video work before I got the audio interface and started collecting standalone microphones for it. And then this is just an actually really, really cheap webcam, which I'm kind of embarrassed about, but it's the best thing I had handy. And I modified it with, what is that, like a T-nut kind of attached to the bottom with that moldable plastic stuff. So, and then I borrowed the same gooseneck from my analog camera, so it's still got the battery pack and the analog transmitter attached to it, even though I'm not using that part right now. So that's what we'll be using soon. But for the first few steps, actually, I don't need to take anything apart that we'll be using. So I can make myself pretty mobile. Right now I'm just using the camera that I usually use for Tuco. So I've got a little bit of a local monitor here, and I can wander around with the audio, and that'll at least get me mobile enough that I can work on the rack. So this is a small, this is, I mean, it's pretty big actually, but as far as racks go, it's relatively small. It's 24U. So actually, some of the parts I have here I think might not end up going in this rack. I think eventually I might want to have a small rack in the closet with the 3D printers also. So there are some things I have, like, I've already got a rack mount server in that closet, which I keep in there because it's so loud. So for stuff like that, it might be useful to have a small rack in the closet. This rack I'm trying to keep entirely full of only quiet things because it's going to be right next to where I'm recording. So that's going to be one kind of potentially frustrating constraint with what I put in here. But that said, 24U should be a lot of space to play with. I have a couple of fairly bulky computers I'm putting in it. So if we look at the equipment over here, this thing is so disorganized, it's even kind of hard to tell what's in here, which is a problem. So this computer on the floor used to be up underneath the audio interface, but I had to take it down to work on it, and it was just too annoying to put back in. That is the computer that I usually use for CAD. I also use it for doing video recording. It's basically my fast Windows machine with the best GPU in the house. That's a GTX 980, which you can see glowing on the side. Basically, I built this machine in order to run VR games, so that's what the GPU is mostly for, but then it also turned out to be a great place to run CAD. So I ended up getting my Rhino license stuck on this machine, so that's also a consideration. So that one's called Brassica, which you can see on the label here. So actually this machine is probably a great first thing to move into the rack, since I don't need this one to stream. It's only, like, I use it for recording the microscope. I use it, of course, for doing CAD and for Windows stuff, but it's not necessary just to get video out the door. So that would be a great machine to start racking. Then back here, what else we got? This machine, you might be able to see a label that says Color Burst. That is what we're actually streaming on. That's the machine that does pretty much all the work right now. So it's pretty beefy. It started out as just kind of a relatively high-spec kind of Dell boxy machine. I forget whether it was kind of in their business or their gaming category, but I think it's a quad i7 if I remember right. We can take a closer look at the specs, but I was basically optimizing for something which was pretty easy to just buy and start adding the parts that I needed to, while also being fast enough and relatively inexpensive as far as like high-end PC stuff goes. So you could do a lot of different things there. I mean, PC building, you can go lots of different ways, but in this case, I just got a Dell machine and then added a... Did I have to upgrade the GPU in that one? I don't know if I even needed to upgrade the GPU in that machine. I think I just ended up getting a machine that had like a good enough NVIDIA GPU. That does not need a super fast GPU. It just needs one that's recent enough to support the hardware H.264 encoding and has presumably enough hardware, units of whatever sort that uses and enough memory to make that run fast enough. So you're looking for something related to the GPU spec, but it's not necessarily the same GPU spec that people are relying on for games. So that's maybe like something, if you're shopping for a GPU, maybe look specifically for encoder performance. So I suspect a lot of the performance in this machine is going into stuff that's CPU bound, stuff that's related to specific weird GPU bottlenecks, like, moving around textures in specific ways or using hardware encoder units. So the performance characteristics might be a little bit weird on this machine. I was a little bit worried about moving the audio on there because the audio is just lots and lots of wake-ups really, really frequently. But so far, it seems like the operating system is handling that all right. So that one will probably be the next racking candidate. Those two PCs are getting the 4U cases that are in the big boxes right behind me. And then some of this stuff is already rackable, like the audio interface. There's a switch on the ground over here. Then most of it's going on shelves. So the other computers in here, there are two Macs. You can probably see that trash can over there, which is regrettably the machine I'm doing the editing on. It's I don't know, a lot of people complain about that machine. It's overpriced and underpowered and not really expandable. And I got it a while ago and I thought it would be a good machine for running Final Cut Pro on, but now I'm just kind of annoyed at being locked into that and the Thunderbolt RAID over there and Final Cut Pro X, and I think at some point I'm just going to ditch all three of those and start editing on a different machine using a different piece of software. But for now, that's what I'm editing on. I also use it as kind of a general workstation, and it was running audio, but it running audio and doing editing at the same time was not really working out, so I moved audio elsewhere. What else? Oh, and then the machine that I actually run the demos on most of the time, the one that shows up as Fishbowl, that one, it's actually kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can get the camera down there. Geez. It is behind that scaler. You might be able to see a Mac Mini in there somewhere. Anyway, it's super hard to get to. There's probably a reason the Bluetooth signal on it does not work worth anything. So that definitely needs to be more accessible. That Mac Mini is where all the demos run, and I usually don't need to access it directly since I have a USB hub on a long wire that I connect things to. You'll also notice a bunch of random little audio-video boxes. Those are kind of... Oops. Lost video for just a sec. Those are kind of strewn about. And, oh, geez, I'm sorry about the flickering. Let me try to fix that. One of the wires on this camera rig is a little bit bad, and I didn't realize... Oops, sorry. Didn't realize I was stressing that. Anyway, you can see the Vive headset. Like I said, the CAD machine was the one that I originally built for doing VR, so I also still want the VR to work on this rig. I have a little 3D printed headset holder. So anyway, those two Macs. There's one more machine here. So if you look back here, that little Linux tower, it is a little like IBM or Lenovo, I think it's Lenovo branded ThinkPad. Anyway, it was just a small desktop I found on eBay, and I put, or maybe it already had like an NVIDIA GPU in it, So it's basically my little NVIDIA plus Linux headless machine that I do kind of random transcoding and network tasks on. So when I'm streaming, like when I'm streaming Sanrio stuff to both YouTube and Twitch, that's the machine that's doing the transcode for Twitch. And normally when I stream, that color burst machine that's actually doing the streaming, that one sends sends its encoded video over to that machine. The little Linux machine is called Spacer. So Color Burst sends its compressed audio and video stream over to Spacer, which then transcodes it to a lower bit rate for Twitch and for potentially other clients around here on Wi-Fi. And that's also the machine that runs Twitter bots and takes screenshots and does all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of a utility machine that runs Linux and doesn't need to be especially powerful, doesn't really have much storage. As far as storage, I'm actually planning on putting the NAS in here. The NAS is in the printer closet right now, but I think I want to move it in here so that it's on the same network switch so that I get more bandwidth. It's just a little 5-bay Drobo consumer NAS. It's already getting close to full. I need to clean up the video on it, but it's got, I think, about 30 terabytes of storage right now. Let's see. So that audio setup, yeah, there's a lot more audio stuff than it really seemed like I would need at first. So that M audio rig, and also I should point out that most of this stuff I didn't get specifically for streaming. A lot of it just kind of accreted together over time. The color burst machine and, I should mention how the video actually gets in there. So a lot of the stuff in there I got specifically for this streaming rig because that was by the time I kind of wanted to get more serious about this. So that machine, this might be something to do once I am on the lo-fi rig and starting to take things apart because I'm starting to worry about breaking stuff just trying to get the camera back there. But this color burst machine, it has, that's just kind of trippy and annoying. I don't know if there's a good way to illustrate this. Let me see if I can get the camera back there without breaking everything. Yeah, I don't know, that probably doesn't help. But if you looked at the back of the streaming machine, it's got a Blackmagic Decklink card in it, which gives me 4 SDI video inputs. So those inputs, they're a little bit annoying to use because the Blackmagic software is super, super picky about video modes. So I use that for stuff that I can just set up once and won't change. So that includes the oscilloscope, the microscope, the cat camera, the viewfinder for the SLR. All of that stuff goes into the Blackmagic card after being converted into SDI. So for a lot of that, I'm just using these little cheap SDI HDMI dongles. For the O-scope output is 800 by 600 VGA. So I've actually got I've got a scaler box, like a cheap scaler from eBay, going from 800 by 600 VGA up to 720p on SDI, which I then capture. So it's really a mashup. There's just all sorts of hardware all over the place. And yeah, a lot of it just kind of accreted together over time. Like I got a couple of video recorders here and there, and so like if I was starting from scratch, I would probably get different hardware. I might consider even getting like an all-in-one unit because there are some interesting all-in-one kind of video station in a box things that people are selling now. But I mean, one thing I like about this setup is most of the parts can do multiple jobs at the same time. So I can use a lot of these PCs for multiple jobs. I can set up really complicated audio filtering and try to eliminate a lot of the background noise in Ableton. I can use that for doing extra kind of audio and music effects in the near future. So there's a lot of audio inputs and outputs going on too, since I've got 3 microphones usually. There's this boom mic on the desk, which is usually what you're hearing me through. I don't remember the exact model number, but this is a Rode shotgun mic. You know, if I take the fluffy thing off. Oh, here's a model number, right? Oh yeah, NTG1. So this is what you're usually hearing me on. This goes to a preamplifier in that M-Track 8 thing. So, and then there's a little bit of filtering just to try to cut down the ambient noise. But the shape of the microphone actually does a good job at trying to filter out, especially the stuff that's coming from like that side of the shop and like outside. It tries to cut that out. And then I've got this headset, which is wireless and comes through a receiver over there. I've got a wired headset, which is just on a long XLR cable, which sounds a lot better than this one, but is inconvenient for when I'm wandering around the shop. And then the other inputs right now are mostly just different combinations of other computers and devices that I want to capture. So for the HDMI, so like when you're seeing a computer here, so if I push this switcher and so like in this scene, for example, the camera is not powered on because it doesn't have an SD card. But if I put the SD card back in, so in this case, the camera is coming in over SDI. The cat cam below me is coming in over SDI. This is a USB camera you're looking at right here. The DSLR over there is SDI. The big screen over in the middle, where is it? There. That screen is a USB 3 HDMI grabber, and that you've probably seen like the weird artifacts on it and stuff. It's annoying in some ways, but one thing that's nice about it is that it handles pretty much any video mode pretty gracefully. So I have that connected to a switcher, and the switcher is also being split off to this monitor, so I can see what's going on in low latency on this monitor. And then with a little bit of lag, the same thing shows up in the stream up here. So usually I don't really want to be using this when I'm using the computer because the lag makes it kind of hard to use the mouse. But down here, I can use the computer pretty easily. And then the HDMI switcher on there lets me take both of those over to a different channel pretty easily. So I can hit that, and then now that's over on the CAD machine, which is currently, I was just looking for the mouse that's associated with that. I think the mouse is elsewhere, but I think that's one of the microscope capture devices. So if I put something under the microscope here, then with a whole bunch of lag, it'll eventually show up over there. Anyway, that's basically what's going on. Yeah, there's a lot more to talk about here, but I think some of it would be more convenient once I start taking that part apart, since right now, yeah, there's just so much wiring and stuff that it's a little difficult to get into. If we go back over to this camera, so just looking at what some of this stuff is, so there's like a PC, another PC, this box over here is the UPS, there's like a mass of AC and DC power wiring, which is pretty bad, and I have a new power distribution system set up for that. There's a pile of hard disks. So like I said, there's a NAS in the closet where the footage ends up getting stored eventually, but these are just local disks for the editing machine. That one on the bottom is a pretty fast Thunderbolt RAID, which is what I use during the actual editing, which is really helpful. That's what I discovered makes Final Cut Pro tolerable on that machine. There's the HDMI switcher. Yeah, and then those little boxes are audio. Let's see. The one on the left is a headphone amplifier that I'm actually using to distribute mixed audio over to all the different video recorders. Let's see if I can get a better view of that. Yeah, so the other thing that makes this setup complicated, I wanted to make it such that when I do the streaming, ideally it's something that I get a lot of different things out of, so that I can publish a stream in real time as I'm doing it, but then I also get a lot of material that I can use later on. So I wanted to be able to record good source material, but then also be able to stream stuff in real time. So that's why I have all these recorders. So like these two are HDMI capture devices made by Elgato that are sold for like gaming. They're actually kind of nice in some ways because you can you can record with pretty much any computer. These do some local compression and then stream back. I think H.264, but their driver ends up decompressing it, and so you have to recompress it, which is a little bit annoying. But these devices end up giving you a video stream over USB 2, which is actually pretty nice. And they're actually pretty good at supporting a lot of different formats. I've been having some trouble with them recently because their mini USB connector is terrible, and I think they've been having some grounding faults that end up causing them to just end up spewing electrical noise into the whole rest of the system. So I need to try to fix some of that while I'm racking this whole setup. But in general, I like them. They just require some care. So then this is a headphone amplifier with a bunch of separate outputs. So one of the outputs from the M-Audio interface goes to the headphone amplifier, which then distributes the audio to all the different video recorders. So the HD60 devices, the oscilloscope scaler, which can also insert audio along with the VGA, the DSLR microphone input, and this was also going to the streaming input on the Colorburst machine, but I'm going to stop using that since I have the direct cable now, the software cable. So this was responsible for distributing it to all of those, but now it'll just be for the offline recordings. Then this is kind of on the other end of it. This is a mixer. This is actually a passive mixer, so it's just a bunch of variable resistors, but it's taking audio from several of the other PCs and mixing them together onto a smaller number of input channels, since I want to be able to record the machines that I have on the HDMI switcher. I have a box taking the audio out of that HDMI stream so that I can record the HDMI using one of these HD60 recorders, but then I can also take that audio and run it into the M-Audio thing where I can record it along with my other multi-channel audio tracks. So yeah, this lets me do that with a couple of the different inputs. There's the audio extracted from the HDMI, there's audio coming directly from the CAD machine and from the trash can Mac. And a lot of the audio signals here would have had ground loop problems, so I had to add, like a lot of these little things are here. These are just little isolation transformers. So, and you have to be a little bit careful using them and the passive mixer together, because the passive mixer kind of messes with the impedance of the inputs. So yeah, that'll take probably some more explanation once I actually dig this stuff out, but that's maybe a really high-level overview of the audio. And then as far as outputs, oh yeah, so the M-Audio interface has two headphone amp outputs built in. This one is the one that actually goes to this other headphone amp that splits it 4 ways. But then this one goes to my headphones that I actually use for monitoring. And then this goes to the speakers at my desk over here. There's some other speakers on the other side of the room which are connected to a line out on here, and they've got their own mixer. There's just a long cable going from the line out here to the line amp, or the line in on the mixer over there. There's a little mixer on that desk for those speakers. There's nominally a computer over there, although I've been kind of stealing some parts from it. So it might end up being that that's just not really a computer desk, but it's just a desk that when people come over, they can sit their laptop there. Right now, it's not really in service. Catch up on chat a little bit, and then maybe I'll switch from the explanation phase to the actually getting on with things phase. Oh, so a good question from Robert, who says, I'm surprised this is done with a whole bunch of separate boxes rather than everything going into the PC and then having it done in software. There are a couple of good reasons, I think, for having multiple PCs here. One is that it's been really useful to have a separation between the environment that I'm using to produce the stream and the environment inside the stream. So, for example, having a computer that's kind of the fishbowl Mac, like its outputs are set up to always be 1080p. It's only got programs that I want to stream installed. It's, always got, it's always just set up in just the right way for me to stream. That isn't quite as much the case with the CAD machine because I use that computer for a lot of stuff, but it's still the case that when I'm streaming, I'm not trying to use the machine running OBS to also do the stuff that I'm streaming, which is a problem for various reasons. I mean, you can certainly do it, but when you're doing things that kind of start taking over large portions of the computer, like last time I tried doing streams where I was demoing on the machine running OBS, I just started having problems due to the USB controller flaking out when I was like plugging my hardware I was working on in there. So having that separation is really nice. And then as far as just, especially since audio is pretty low bandwidth in modern terms, Robert says. Well, audio is kind of low bandwidth. I mean, this is multi-channel uncompressed audio, but still, relatively so. The video is not low bandwidth, though. And so, I mean, if you're not interested in having the demo machines at all, and you can do the editing either on the same machine or you're just not interested in editing, then yeah, you can set this up with just a single machine. And as far as audio, there would be various ways of getting the audio in and out. I mean, the reason to have one of these interfaces is that just gives you a lot of extra ins and outs. If you don't care about multi-track recording, which I'm interested in because of... I mean, I guess maybe one other thing that your question could be referring to is having a bunch of separate recorders rather than just having one input and then doing it all in software, having software like split that off into separate sources for like recording and then streaming. And with that, like... Oh, Robert says that they were primarily referring to all the audio boxes. I don't know what you could... So, like, the audio boxes I have are things like amplifiers and like, mixers, which you could get rid of those if you just had an audio interface with even more channels. So, like, if instead of an 8-in, 8-out interface, I had, like, a 16-in, 16-out interface, then sure. But that seemed to be overkill. Just mixing a few of the channels down seemed like a better option. And then the other things were, I have a lot of boxes involved in fixing ground loops and getting audio out to all the video recorders, which is just a synchronization issue. Like, using audio for that is just kind of a convenience. Like, if this were a more pro setup, I'd be using timecode. But audio is just a relatively easy way of syncing up all the tracks in editing later on. And then other things like getting audio out of the HDMI stream, putting audio into the HDMI stream, like that's all just kind of the bridge between audio and video. Like a lot of the boxes here are just kind of bridging the audio and video worlds. So, does that answer your question? I know this stuff here is a little complicated. Let's get some water. So anyway, I'll definitely try to answer more questions about the setup if that comes up. I'm going to try to get on to the stuff I was going to try to do, which I think mostly involves starting to assemble this rack from the bottom up. So rails, then UPS, then a couple of servers. I've also got some packages to open, which we could do pretty much any time here. Yeah, I guess a lot of this does depend on the different use cases. So, yeah, most of what I want here is the ability to get a really quick, immediate, edit that involves mixed audio, being able to cut between different video sources and to get that done live. But then I also want the ability to do high-quality offline video. So I want to record things with as little processing as possible. So I want to get full-frame video from all the cameras. I want to get audio without a lot of filtering. Oh, that's another good question from Robert. So we were talking about these cheap switches earlier, these LB4Ms, and I saw one on eBay that was so cheap I just couldn't resist getting one because it might be useful for my setup. It's like I think a 24-port gigabit switch with a couple of 10 gig uplinks, and it was like $50 with free shipping. So that's the thing in the green bubble wrap. So yeah, we can open that pretty much any time. I don't know if it's going to be useful for this rack because apparently it's pretty loud. So I think my thoughts on that are either it goes in the closet rack where the loudness isn't so much of a problem, or maybe I find some way to modify it to run at maybe partial capacity without, without so much noise. Robert says, "Don't freak out about the fan noise on immediate boot." Well, I'll have to try it. If it's quiet enough relative to everything around here, maybe it does go in the recording rack. This doesn't have to be like pro audio studio levels of quiet, just because I live in a warehouse. This place is not that quiet to begin with, but it at least doesn't need to be noisier than the rest of the equipment around here. So yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff to dig into. This is the battery for the UPS. These are sliding shelves, which I thought would be useful for some of the small equipment. Those are the doors, which I took off temporarily so we can get around this thing more easily. The UPS itself is over on the floor over there. It's super heavy, even without the battery installed. These two boxes are server cases for you, which should fit the two PCs that I want to put in the rack. That box is... Oh, and this is just some other mail. This is, I think, something from a Kickstarter, and this is 3D printer ink. Well, the brand is Melt Ink. It's 3D printer filament. It's PLA. And then some other random stuff. So we can open this at some point. I think the first thing I want to do is put the UPS in the rack and just make sure that is working out fine. Let's find a comfortable position for all of this. Screwdriver time. Maybe I'll also try to get the chat up on the laptop because I'm going to be kind of away from the desk. I won't really be able to see folks if they're trying to get my attention. Alright, got that on the laptop over here. So this is also my first time working on like actual rack mount stuff. So I've been also learning some of how this all works. This chassis is pretty interesting. It has, let me see if I can get more of this in the frame. Okay, that might be nice. So, I've got this mostly assembled. This was a fun experience to get this thing in the house. So it's an interesting construction. So when I started looking for racks, I discovered there are 2-post variants, there are 4-post, and that refers to these rails here that actually hold the weight of the equipment. And most of the time when you see things that are rack mountable, you'll notice these ears on the front that hold the weight by this rail here. And you can get away with that for a lot of equipment, but for stuff that's particularly heavy, or for these shelves, you end up wanting support on the backside also. So for that, you have these racks with rails on both sides. Another thing that I learned that I didn't immediately expect was that these things are symmetric, or mostly so. So you can mount a lot of things on either side of the rack. Stuff that's really deep, like these computer cases or the UPS, will have, it'll take up the entire depth and it'll have like a front side and a back side. But small stuff like the audio interface or the network switch, I'll probably mount like one on the front side and one on the back side and use both of those sides. So all their weight is being held by these rails, which are then held in turn by these horizontal braces, which then hold on to these sturdy vertical beams here. So it's almost like a little crate that holds your computer equipment, which is then inside of a larger crate that rolls around. And I like this enclosure. It has doors on all the sides. It comes with flimsy locks on the doors, but whatever. It might be useful to keep the cats or nosy kids if I have workshops out of my equipment. but it has these panels that you can put on the bottom, two on the bottom, two on the top, to let wiring in and out, and that seemed really useful for putting like panel mount connectors on. So I think for some of this I might just run the wires in here and plug it in where it needs to go. But for some things that I end up wanting more frequent access to, I might want to, have a panel mount connector that I put somewhere on the rack, and then I run the wire into where it needs to go, and then I can attach stuff to that connector. So I got some panel mount DisplayPort, HDMI, and USB connectors, and I have the parts to make like some panel mount breakouts for 1/4 inch and XLR audio, so that might come in handy too. My plan is to save that for a little bit later and kind of try to figure out where the equipment's going and where the wires want to come out, and then to figure out if it's worth modifying some of the cover plates that came with the rack and just like drilling holes in it so that I can mount some panel mount connectors, because that might be especially useful on the top. These cutouts on the top, also, I think I can connect, so if you look over here, I have a couple of those pole mounts, as you can kind of see. There's one that's holding the flashy display there, which we did on an earlier stream. That's a vacuum fluorescent display. There's another one on the left, which was holding my laptop, but has currently just got some MIDI devices. So those, I think I want to reuse those on top of here. So I checked the hardware, and I think without even any significant modification, I can mount those really securely to these beams under here, and then have a pole mount that just sticks up straight vertically, and then have an arm that holds, like some other equipment. So I think I definitely want that for the VFD, so I can have a little VFD pole just like on top of this rack that I can like wheel around. And I could also use something like that to give me a place to put the laptop that I'm using for like chat while I'm streaming. That's probably all I really wanted to get at with the rack right now. So then I have one shelf in here, which I was just putting in just to kind of get a feel for it. I don't know if this is actually where the shelf is going to go. I partially mapped out what I'm putting where, each U by U on this rack, but I don't know if I'm going to entirely follow that diagram. I'm going to play this by ear a little bit, but these shelves, they take up a little bit of space relative to the bottom of the U. So, can I get that on here? So these are really good for equipment that you're just sitting on them, which is what I plan to use these for. So I'll use these for like all the little audio video boxes and that little ThinkPad branded computer that's running the Linux NVIDIA stuff. A lot of that stuff can go on one of these, but for the UPS, that's getting these rails, which are similar in spirit, but they're really heavy duty. They don't actually have a solid bottom, and the bottom plate is really thin so that it doesn't take up space that the UPS is going to need. So my current yak here is installing rails in this chassis. Also trying to remember which side is the front. I'm wondering if it matters which side is the front yet. I think this was going to be the front side, but oh no, this is the back. I should label that before I get too confused again, because so like I said, the rack is mostly symmetric, but there are some places where I'm already going to start differentiating that. It'll be really obvious once I put the UPS in, so maybe I just don't worry about it too much. So I already have cage nuts in that side that match the front of the UPS itself. The UPS is 2U. It's going to sit on top of these rails on the bottom 2 units of this rack. It will not sit actually on this frame, so I could sit it here, but that would actually be below the bottom of the 2U here. And it seems like the way this is mechanically designed is that this is kind of a box that goes around the rack that then holds the equipment kind of vertically. So yeah, this will be the back. So I'm going to put the rails on this side. Then I need to assemble the rest of this rail contraption. I might have to consult the instructions. This is most of the parts I need, I think. So I'll need to assemble the rest of the rail thing. Then I'll need to leave enough room on those cage nuts so that I can... Because like I think the way I have to do this is to not actually attach any of the nuts on that side, but to maybe, yeah, I'll have to figure out how that works, because I don't know how the rails are going to actually support the weight of the UPS while I'm actually putting it in here. Maybe I have to let the rails hold it on the back side and then support it by hand on that side as I'm putting it in while I put the first couple of bolts in. That could be really annoying. But let's see. The UPS is really heavy. I might have mentioned that. So the way these go, there's one of those, there's this little slidey bit, and then there's this piece. And then that attaches on the other side like so. So I can't just bolt it in on that side right away because, I mean, I guess I could temporarily. I probably should temporarily, but I'll need to take those out to get the UPS fully loaded. And then the other deal with this is that there are bolts and nuts that attach these pieces to each other. So, yeah, anyway, I think I want to put this in temporarily so that I can attach these securely, but just for expediency's sake, I'm going to do this side, and then I'll do that side, just to reposition the camera less. So, let's take apart, oh, and I think this is a cross piece. Oh, this is also like a cable management guard that goes on one side, so I think this goes on, this will go on the back somewhere, like, oh, like that or something? This definitely looks like it fits on this U system, but I don't know exactly where that goes. Also, I have instructions, which we could look at if we need to. But these come assembled like this. Oh, I also took someone's advice and got one of these little cage nut removal tools. Seems pretty good so far. Might save some finger wear and tear. Oh, that's a great question from Key2 in the chat, asking where the cat is. Where is the cat? I wonder if he's upstairs. I know when I was hanging out upstairs getting ready for the stream, I think he was up there, but I expected him to follow eventually. Hey, Tuco. Are you around? I don't know what he actually thinks that noise is, but he tends to respond to it. These rails, like, when I was shopping around for all of this, I was like, why are the rails so expensive? It's just a piece of metal that holds the UPS. Why are these rails, like, I think these were like almost $100 just for the rails. But then I get them and it's like, oh, this is like a substantial piece of metal. This is like going to hold your stack of servers. But yeah, the rack itself came in 5 boxes. It came on a big truck. The truck was like way bigger than it needed to be to deliver this pallet full of rack boxes. The area where my shop is also has a lot of like biotech and medical equipment, and so I think they were delivering some stuff for the labs around here too. Oops. Let's get this a little bit leftwards. Where did that bolt go? The corners of this rack seem to just have a trap for bolts. I think the way it's designed just seems to really, really want bolts to hang out there. There's a comment in the chat about Dell Ready Rails. I haven't heard of those. I'm not sure what those are. That sounds fancy and expensive. That's probably what the name is designed to evoke. So, man, it's a racking stream and I didn't even have to make it lo-fi yet. So I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to use this tool. I'm still kind of trying to figure this out. I think you hold that in place. Oh, hey, cat. Tuco's right here. How are you, little guy? Well, gee, I don't need Tuco's help to put these in. He can just hang out over there. Hey, little dude. Are you gonna help out? That's cool. I was just saying, I can do this by myself, but if you want to help, that's always appreciated. Oops, I just accidentally removed that one. Oh, are these two cage nuts, like, incompatible sizes to be neighbors? I think this one is bigger than all the rest for some reason. Now I feel bad that I'm using Tuco's camera. That seems better. Oh, Emily in chat says, no results found for rack mount cat bed. You know, I was hoping to keep Tuco out of this rack, as sad as that sounds. I mean, I'm cool with him hanging out on top of the rack, but I'd rather... Like, this is a unique opportunity to have a cat-free zone for wires, which is something I'm actually pretty excited about. So I think that'll go like that-ish. Clunk. And where's my hex wrench? Where's the hex wrench? Here's the hex wrench. I was gonna say, this reminds me so much of, I don't know if anybody else played with the Erector set as a kid. This toy, I don't know if it still exists, but when I was a kid, there was this toy, which I think was actually pretty old. Like, I think it had been around since the 50s in the US or something like that. Maybe even before that. But it basically comes with a bunch of little stamped metal pieces and bolts, and you're connecting these little flat metal beams together with little tiny bolts and Allen wrenches and stuff. And I enjoyed trying to build robots. I didn't have any electronics that I could have used to control a robot, but I built this robot chassis that I was really proud of. So I don't want to tighten these too much until I get the whole thing assembled, but that's basically going to be it. So let's turn this around. I think that might be the easiest thing to do. Tuco, are you being a climber? Hey Tuco, I know you want to climb that, but I'm about to rotate it. You are standing on the chat, Tuco. Are you going to say something? That's a good place for you, little guy. Okay, so I'm going to temporarily put the other nuts in on, or the bolts in on this side, even though I don't think, like, I think these will have to come out so that I can get the UPS in. Tuco, you're standing on the chat and making the computer loud. I hope you realize that. Can you move your butt? Hey, little guy. Don't know what order. I think I can put that in after I just put this in. That's interesting. So on the front in particular, the pattern of holes that the rails and the UPS have in common is not going to be amazing. So these are the holes that the UPS has. These are the holes on the rail. So the overlap between them is actually just the top and the bottom, which I think is going to be enough. It's just not as much as I would hope. So I think here I actually just want to take off those two cage nuts. I feel like there should be a warning, like, don't give any body part to the cage nuts that you don't want to lose. Like a table saw or something. I think that'll be fine. And now these will... so, that is shipping damage. I need to get a vice grip to fix that. Somebody dropped this on the corner before it reached me. That'll be straight enough. Bolt will straighten it the rest of the way. I've got a bunch of Phillips head M6s for some reason. I don't know why. I like the socket head ones much better. I'll use the Phillips heads on stuff that's not quite so heavy. So basically like that. We could bolt these in the overlap, except that locks it into very specific widths, which I don't think we have. So I think they recommended in the instructions, which I glanced at, to bolt it in the areas where you're getting just one plate and one of these edges, and then put this in between the two. So I think that's what we want. And then these 3 bolts going through these holes. And everything should be countersunk. Where do the horizontals go? I'm assuming these look like they go under here. These are threaded. That looks useful. Let's do that later. I think the next step here is the side rail screws. So these are Phillips head countersunk with these little grippy nuts. Let's start out just trying to put a couple in on the corners to constrain this a little better. Is that countersunk on the other side? I think that will just be countersunk nowhere. That's not optimal, but let's do it. Something like that. Start putting some more screws in. Oops. Just kind of trying to tack this together so that I can get a feel for, well, I want to get the whole thing kind of roughly put together before I add too many screws any at one place. Oh, I think having these be a little closer in might make it stronger. It's still only getting those 2 bars, so. Anyway, that's enough screws in that side for now. Let's start putting some screws on the other side. So, a couple more hex head M6s. And this one in between. Cool. And then similar deal with these screws. Oh, Tuco's getting into some mess of mine. Okay, that's kind of tacked in place. So this, I think, goes on last, if at all. I think that's also optional. These horizontal pieces are important. I think we want to kind of space these along evenly. And there we go, kind of like that. So the side I'm sitting on is going to be the front of the rack, which I think what that means in this case, that'll be where I want some of the external I/O to go for stuff that I'm plugging in and unplugging a lot. That's where I want like the front of the PC cases to go, where like they're drawing in air, but I don't have a lot of I/O. Most of the I/O goes on the back to keep it out of the way of the stuff that's in the front. I'm not 100% sure that's the right set of screws to use. I think those screws seemed a little bit longer than they needed to because maybe this screw is designed to go through 2 layers of material into this piece first. That seems pretty solid on this crossbar. Yeah, that's getting better. Let's move this to the middle. Well, you know, actually having this skewed toward the front is probably not bad because the UPS is really, really front heavy. Let's put that like right there. I don't know if these are the right screws. I might have to look for different screws. I mean, they fit here, but now I have a bunch of additional nuts, and I'm missing the screws that I think I would want to use on these sides. Let me briefly look for those. Hey, Tuco. I know. Where would I have put that? There's so much purring going on. Alright, Tuke. Is it over here? I hear you, little guy. I think the place it would have been is over on this side of the shop. I hear you, Tuco. I might have tidied away the instructions and potentially some screws for those rack rails, although I think if there were screws, I really would have put those in with the rails, so... I think what happened is the screws that are going in that side, or in the bottom brace should be going in the side because those have the really nice countersink. And it might just be that I don't need screws with as much countersink on the bottom, although it seems like I really would. Maybe I just need more of those countersunk screws. I'm just wandering around trying to see if there's a pile of screws somewhere that I misplaced. Tuco has climbed the rack yet again, showing his domination over all things racked. Oh, is this what I'm missing? Oh, I think this is. Why? Oh. I think this is... Okay. I've got some stuff that is specific to the rack. I've also got some stuff which I think came with this piece. There's some M5 cage nuts. I don't know why they're using M5. Everything else here is M6. Hey, Tuke, you gotta come down here if you want to be on TV. We're working in the rack. I hear you, little guy. Okay, so I think this goes with this. Oh, it comes with the tiniest wrench. Yeah, and more. Okay, great. It just comes with more of the same countersunk screws, so I think we're good. I think we don't even have to take this apart. We just can keep going right where we left off. So, I just want to put as many of these as I can in the side. And let's just try to space these out. I forget how many of these we have total, but I'm just going to try to put them on evenly, regardless. I think right where I'm sitting, I'm hearing the sound from the CAD computer kind of focused right over here, because the side of the computer isn't mounted. It's like those things you see at science museums, where the sound from one side of the room gets transported to the other side of the room. This UPS, I think, is rated... Well, they rate UPSs pretty weirdly. They rate them in volt amps, which you'd think would be watts, but isn't, because of the way they rate power factor. I think this one's actually rated like 2200 volt amps. The important thing... Well, to some extent, I'm worried about runtime for whenever either there's a legit power outage or I just need to reconfigure stuff in my lab. I don't want to necessarily have the thing power off after 10 seconds. The UPS I've been using for this stuff previously was just getting really, really close to overloading. And I think when I'm doing a stream and I have all the video recording equipment and the oscilloscope and all that going, it would often be like 800 watts or so. Yeah, I don't know what's up with the M5 screws this comes with. I think that was not a good idea. I'm going to ignore all the M5 stuff, but all of these countersunk screws it comes with are going in the side rails. Oops. think I've got three more of these I can put in. That looks right. I think they all go on this side. So now there are 4 in each corner. And I'll go through and tighten these and maybe move some of the ones that are really uneven. Everything else in here is M5. I'm not using that right now. I can use those for stuff that is not the very bottom of the rack. Close to being able to mount the UPS in this thing. Let's move this one so that it's... I want all these to... Oops. I want all these to be fairly spaced out so they have a wide grip on this part. I don't know if it matters much, but if they're all even, my OCD will care less. Okay, I think we're ready to put the UPS in here after I remove the front bolts. So now this thing should be pretty rigid. This should all be held up by the back. I can take the front bolts off, put the UPS on top, and then tighten these back down on top to hold both the rack, or hold both the shelf here and the UPS. This part's going to be tricky. Most of the weight at first is going to be right here, which, can I get that knot in the way? Yeah, so most of the weight initially is going to be right about there, because that's where there's a giant transformer in the UPS. Okay, so these are hanging a little bit loose right there. Let's try to get the UPS in here without breaking any important body parts. Maybe I take off my jacket for this part. Alright. double, triple checking which side is the front. I think we'll be fine. I already covered the cord with this stuff so that Tuco doesn't chew on it. He likes cords sometimes. Okay. So now I'm going to try to get the weight on these bolts. Like that one. Okay, I think that was going to be the hard part. Let's put the rest of the bolts in. Oops, sorry about the headset noise. I keep forgetting it's there and then bumping it. Okay, that was the heavy side. Now the light side. Make sure I get the rails and the server, not just the rails. Well, not server, UPS. It's so heavy. Oh, is that not going in? Thank goodness the battery is removable. I don't know what I would do to this thing to get it in if the battery had to stay. I mean, they make a big point in the instructions of, like, don't even try to put this in the rack with the battery, like, seriously. Is this cage nut just buggered? I think that did it. Yeah. Last screw. And then tighten them all, and then try to put the battery in. After we tighten all the screws on all the sides. Oh yeah, this is nice. This would work 0% without the rails. Like, this UPS is way too heavy to mount from just the front. Oh, Tuco's got a great view. He's way up there. How are you doing, Tuke? Can we get a wider shot? Okay, I'm gonna pull the cord through and just have like one extra hex bolt. Maybe I can just turn this again. At some point, it's probably going to get harder to turn. Right now, the casters are still doing a good job. Okay. That seems alright. So it also came with this little wire organizer doodad. I think I might use it elsewhere because this doesn't really make any sense at the back of a UPS. I'm going to put this in my spare rack parts pile for the moment. Because this is all going to be a little tight anyway, and I'm going to try to make a lot of my power distribution happen elsewhere. So I'm just going to tighten this on the back, and then we can try putting the battery in and actually turning this on. Make sure our UPS doesn't explode and burn the shop down. Has serial and USB on the back. This RJ45, it came with a cable to break that out to like an old school DB9 serial. This UPS also came with the most serious power cord, because the whole thing is rated for 20 amps, which is a lot more than I'm actually going to need. But it seemed like, given the actual power I'd be running through it and the runtime I wanted, that was about the right size UPS to get. But it means that the input power on this thing is way overkill for my situation, and I'm actually going to be running it off of a 15 amp circuit, so it'll be capable of throwing the circuit breaker on that circuit, but the stuff I'm actually going to plug into it is only going to be like pretty well under a kilowatt. Alright, let's get the battery in there. I'm tired of the battery sitting on the floor. So, let's just hang that stuff up, turn this around again. There's Tuco doing his Tuco thing. Alright, another heavy object. It says stop, I'm heavy. I'm like, yes, I know that, but thanks. .48 volts, lead acid. That just goes in there. Then these screws secured in. That was 3 with lock washers. Huh. There's an arc on, or there's like a spot on the connector where it looks like there's some arcing visible. I wonder if that was from some factory testing they did. It's pretty minor, but I was curious. Let me see if I can get a closer view. That's going to be really hard to focus from over here. I don't know. It's not really worth messing with, but you might be able to see that just very slightly. Alright, so now it's time to plug this in. So, Anderson power. These are very, very keyed. Yeah. So this goes like there. That's where the arcing comes from. There's some capacitor in there that's getting charged up by the batteries when you plug this in. And then, not quite sure where the slack in these cables usually hangs out. There's like a faceplate that covers over this whole thing, though. Maybe I should look at the manual to see exactly how they want me to route the slack in that cable. Did I already lose the manual for this? I know I already skimmed it for anything that would be really important, but now I can't actually locate where I put it. I'm sure it's pretty easy to download. It looks like that slack can just go through there. But yeah, I should check the manual. Let's grab a computer. Alright, I think this is the manual. Yeah, so we've been through this. Connect the battery module, attach the front bezel. I'm looking for exactly what do I do with the extra centimeter of slack in the wire here. Oh yeah, this emergency power off feature seemed really useful. It has an option for putting a connector in the back of the UPS that gives you a button somewhere else that you can use to turn off the UPS. That seems super handy. Yeah, I was pretty sure I already looked at the manual and it didn't say anything about that, and this confirms it. So, I think I'm just going to assume that with a little bit of squishing force, the bezel will fit, despite that wire being kind of chunky. All right. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. It's just a really, really thick wire. Great. Let's plug this thing in. I hear you, Tuco. Do you want to go outside, Cat? Alright, so I'm just going to plug it in to this power strip I have over here, which should be alright. An ominous clunk. Oh yeah, that transformer's humming. Whoa, setup wizard. There's a setup wizard on this UPS. I was not expecting a setup wizard. This is a nice UPS. This UPS was like one of the more expensive parts of this rack setup. Menu type, standard or advanced? I guess we'll start with standard. Enter today's date. Really? Alright. April 2017. I guess it just wanted the month. Huh. Output off, battery 100%. Main menu, status. Okay, well let's turn it on. It has a little about screen every time it powers itself on. Cool. Load 0%, battery 100%. Cool. We have our power. So most of this stuff I don't think... Whoa. Self-test. That was loud. I'm like half worried that its self-test is going to blow a circuit breaker. So some fans clicked on. I think it might have just switched on an internal load and then run the load off of battery power for a bit. That's pretty nice. Cool. Well, I think we can leave this be for a sec and assume it's probably in a stable situation. And at some point, we'll probably want to get some software installed so we can talk to the UPS and get status. But for now, I'm just going to let it charge if it needs to. I think the next thing to do is to open one of these 4U boxes and to try to shove the CAD machine into it. Hey, Tuco. Meow. Meow. I know. You're such a cat. There's a bunch of M5 hardware, which I'm going to put aside because I don't particularly want M5 hardware in my setup right now. Let's wake up the laptop again so I can tell if people are screaming at me in chat. Okay, yeah, a couple of people in chat are saying that the power quality was probably about the sensitivity as to when the UPS will kick over into its own power. Yeah, I think that's probably true. This is not an online UPS where it's always running the power through its conversion. Those are nice. They're a lot more expensive. They're also probably louder because this one doesn't really make noise when it's not operating, so that's useful for a setup like this where I care about noise. So maybe this is a good time to open some packages. We've got a whole stack of packages here. Mailbag time. Are they all over here? Yeah. All right. Well, let's start with the little ones and work our way up. Should we sort these by size? I think we have... I think they look like this if we're sorting by size. So this one is from Amazon. I don't know if it's going to be stream related, but I have a feeling it is. Oh yeah, I guess sort of. Thunderbolt to gigabit adapter. Necessary dongles for the Apple Life, which is sort of streaming related. All right. I needed another one of those because I only actually have one of those in my life, and I think I need one for the other Apple laptop. All right, that was unexciting. Let's open the next one. This one might not be exciting either. I think this one's also from Amazon. Oh, this one is rack related. We have, well, I mean, it's not going to only be rack related, but I think I'm going to end up using this first for the rack. Here are a bunch of nice 1/4-inch audio connectors that are panel mount. So, for example, this style where there's like a little locking tab. Oh, that's the kind that pushes in like that. So it grabs the connector and then you push to release it. So I think I might want these for the speaker outputs. So my plan is to, not necessarily right away, but eventually to have a cutout panel that goes somewhere on the rack that has the outputs that go to the rest of the shop. So several of these will be in the cards. Let's see, what's next? Oh, there's something else in this box, too. Oh, panel mount XLR jacks. So, same idea, but XLR, I think. Which I have some of these. How are these different? Oh, these are much nicer. Oh, yeah, I had some really, really cheap ones that I was using for DMX. But these are some slightly better ones that I would actually use for microphones. They actually have a lock, and they're metal. They aren't just like all plastic like the other ones I had. So these will be for microphone pass-throughs into the rack at some point in the future, but we won't be using these right away. We have a DigiKey box. I think this one is work-related, but it might have some good packaging for Tuco. Hey, Tuco. So we have... Yeah, this is some stuff for adding JTAG headers to hardware. Hey, Tuco, you want this? I think you will later. Let's save that for Tuco. Wow. This one has a Proposition 65 warning. These are JTAG headers and related stuff for work. They aren't super interesting right now. This is an interesting object. I'm not quite sure what to expect. This is from a Kickstarter that I donated to a long time ago, and it was related to, so there's a building. So I live in Emeryville, which is pretty close to Berkeley, and there was I guess it was like an auditorium building in Berkeley that closed pretty recently. And I only saw like one thing there, but it was really interesting architecture. And there's this Kickstarter to capture a detailed 3D model and acoustic model of the architecture before they ended up like demolishing or seriously refitting the building. So among the outputs of this project, they actually made a vinyl record. Yeah, the acoustic deconstruction of whatever the name of the building was, which I'm forgetting. Something or other, Bancroft Way in Berkeley. Oh yeah. As the former home of the UC Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive, 2626 Bancroft Way is acoustically exceptional in ways that cannot be measured or reproduced. A brutalist masterpiece, the building was shuttered on December 21st, 2014, and its future is uncertain at the time of this pressing. With established and brave new techniques, we collected a representation of its acoustic soul. These recordings are artists' interpretations of that data rather than a direct document of the building's sound. Here's an echo reflected not by concrete, but by a listener's resonant body. That's pretty cool. I don't have a way of playing this right now, but I think I can probably find a friend who does. A 33 RPM. Oh, B, 40. I wasn't sure whether that was like A as in the article, but apparently it's side A and side B being different speeds. Whoa, we could look at this under the microscope and read it. You can actually kind of see the waveform on the surface. You can tell I've never held a record before. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll have to find a way to play this. The art on the cover is pretty neat, and there's some text also. Oh, it's information about all the artists. Ingrid Lee, Maggie Payne, Matt Ingalls, Jacqueline Kiyomi Gordon, and Zachary Bellinger. A lot of local people. That's pretty neat. Oh, and it has information about the tracks on the two sides. It's made by these folks, The Lab. They're a San Francisco outfit. Well, that's fun. It's a little bit off topic for the stream, but interesting nonetheless, and I'll have to find a friend with a vinyls player, as they say. So then, what else do we have? Well, we have a big box. I think I know what's in that box, but it's going to be fun. Cool. Well, let's stow this pretty carefully for the moment. I just need a vinyls player. Alright. Tuco, you sure you don't want this packaging? It's all yours now. So. Emily says, Kickstarter, a time machine where your thing will travel to you 2 years in the future. Yeah, that's pretty much the thing. Oh, and Len is lamenting, never held a record before, I feel old. Well, that's partly an age thing and partly I didn't really have music I liked as a kid. My parents have, had a record player, I don't know if they still do. Mostly I remember my mom listening to a lot of things on cassette tape and me not really being into music until much later. When I first started having music I liked, I think it was mostly downloading stuff on the file sharing websites of the time, because that was what I had access to. Like, I had like a CD, a couple of CDs maybe, but it wasn't something I had a lot of access to. It was usually easier at the time to wait for something to download on my super slow modem than to like go into outer space and try to find a piece of plastic with a song you liked on it. Alright, so this is from Meltink. It is labeled 25 pounds. This is going to be 3D printer filament. This was some stuff, I think I found it originally on the Amazon shop. I don't know if they sell it on Amazon anymore, but you can buy it direct. And at least in the US, they have I think they have free shipping in the US. Oh, that's a nice color. So that's kind of a nice, like, aqua color, which I haven't used before. That's pretty nice. Oh, there's a lot here. Let's bring this down. This is replenishing my PLA stash for the moment. So I've got red. I've been using a lot of red for the moving parts in the winch bots. So I've got 4 spools of red, 2 more of this. Oh, this is a different blue too. This is a different blue than I've used before. And this is that kind of cyan blue. I figured it'd be nice to have some colors that are kind of, but not super contrasting. So like 2 different blues to print in. So that'll be nice. Should move these toward the 3D printing closet. Alright, now Tuco's sitting on the next box that we open. That is one of our server chassis, as it says. I think these cases are going to be pretty bare bones. Like, I'm not expecting them to have a power supply. I think they might have some fans. I don't know how many of their fans we're going to use, since, as I've said, I'm concerned about noise. And so if they end up having some, like, loud, fast fans, whereas the original PC cases had some nice slower ones, I think I used those. Where did that knife go? Here it is. It's right behind the cat. Hey, Tuke. I'm going to cut around you, okay? Hey, little guy. Can I get you to move? Excuse me. There is another box inside the box. Hey, cat. Can you scooch back a little? Hey, dude. How's that? Isn't that interesting, Tuco? Alright, well, there's the front of the case. There's some handles. There's a key. Oh! Well, that worked out alright. So... there are a few different ways we could put this in. I don't have rails for both of these cases. I have shelves, but I don't know if there's room to put a shelf under these. It might just be we mount them for the front, because there's a decent length of the lever, given that this is 4U, and these aren't going to be really heavy. And they'll be sitting directly on top of the UPS. So let's get this on the floor so we can start loading it up. And is this empty? This is all styrofoam. I think everything we need is going to be in there. Now, this is 2 layers of boxes and some styrofoam and some plastic. It's a lot of packing. I have such a cardboard monster. Whew, and there's something sharp in my shoe. That's never fun. Okay, so there's the server. Well, the case. Let's open this and see what's actually in there. Just catching up on chat just a little bit. Nick is saying, if only one machine is on the rails, that's the one that breaks always. Yeah, probably. Let's see what we've got in here. I mean, if I can use this on top of the shelf that I have, that would be nice. I don't think that would work, though. Let's just try that to see. I don't think there'll be room for it to sit on the shelf, though. Well, there's enough room horizontally. But that misaligns it vertically by quite a lot. I could maybe shift the rack shelf down by one of these, like a third of a U. Maybe that would do it. I still feel like this is the wrong tool for the job, though. I mean, that is not the worst way to mount a server, but it certainly could be better. But let's see, this would just end up going in like that, which seems fine. I mean, I could get more rails. I might at some point, but I don't have them right now, and I don't think I need them right away. So let's open this thing up and see what it's like inside. So I think this is going to come apart like a pretty normal PC case from the top here. I'm going to lose these screws, aren't I? I need another bin for these screws. Emily is suggesting in the chat to use the cardboard and make a giant cat castle. Oh, and Nick is saying you can mount the shelf upside down, but then it burns a U to get the proper alignment. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that, though, because I don't really have the space to spare. I think right now I'm going to stack it all on top of the UPS, and it'll be fine, because that one's on rails. And that I will probably endeavor to get some more rails in the future, but right now I don't have them, and I don't think I'm going to worry about it too much. And keep the parts for this together. Yeah, that's all that's holding this lid on. And I'm ordering this such that, like, I want the two PCs to be on the bottom. I think I want this one to be furthest on the bottom because it does a lot less that I end up wiring stuff to. And this is also the one that I'm going to be doing like HTC Vive stuff with, which tends to be light on the cable length, so I kind of want this close to where the cables are going to exit the rack. That's pretty basic. So it's got two little fans, place for a power supply, a bunch of empty drive cages, bunch of wiring for the front panel, which I'll have to figure out how to adapt to this motherboard. Little box of hardware. Oh, slot covers and screws. Server chassis. Is this going to be at all interesting? Might have pinouts. That's not really helpful. Alright. What does this front thing look like? It has yet another key to lose. Oh, that's kind of nice actually. Everything is black, so it's probably hard to see, but there are two nice 120mm fans right in front of the drives, bunch of free 512 or 5¼ inch bays, and then a little control panel-y thing here with a couple of USB ports. That is really nice. A little reset button, a little power button. So, that looks cool. Let's get the computer shut down so we can try to put its guts in here. And how much do I need to worry about this key? Can I leave this unlocked? What is it catching on? Well, there's not much holding that shut, but it should kind of stay shut, I think. I think that's maybe a magnet. Hard to tell if that's a magnet or just a machining problem on that right side. But anyway, that seems alright. So, as far as computers go, that is this one. Do I already have anything plugged in here? Oh yeah, here's the keyboard. And here's the mouse. Tuco just knocked them off of their extremely precarious location. He's inspecting the other box over there. Are the fans rated for cat hair? Is anything? Update and shut down. I don't want to update right now. Fine though. Maybe I can use the restroom while it's updating. I'll be right back. I think that flickering mess means that we have what we wanted. Sorry about that. All right. So in this huge mess, this machine here is the one we're interested in right now. I'm just going to yank everything from it and bring it over. And anti-static wrist strap might be nice for this. Clips. All right. I don't have an amazing ground over here because I have not actually connected the ground lugs on this chassis yet, but I imagine the UPS grounds its own case pretty well. All right. Case. Metal thing. Case. Let's actually connect these grounds. So these are all electrically floating, which is kind of the most dangerous time for electrostatic discharge, so it'd be nice to actually not have them float. So I don't know how well grounded each of these individual components are, but this should at least prevent significant amounts of static buildup. If I cared slightly more, I would test the grounds. So this machine has a power supply, big GPU, spinning disk, SSD, pretty much it. There's not much in this machine. So I think I want to move the motherboard over first, but I need to take out a lot of stuff to get to the motherboard, so I think I'm going to temporarily stack stuff on top of the UPS since it's another grounded metal surface. I might actually, I'll just get a big anti-static bag to lay this stuff on. Oh, Tuco, do you finally enjoy the packing material? He's in there. Hey, little guy. These boxes are also relevant to our interest. These are sliding shelves, which I wanted to use for some of the little AV equipment. Yeah, I'm more worried about getting in and out of all the little stuff, although I certainly agree that having rails for this machine would be convenient. But I'm just imagining getting these in and out without rails, and the stuff immediately below and above will both be anchored really well, so I'm Not sure it'll be hard, but, you know, I've never done this before. Okay, let's take out the power supply and the hard disks and the GPU. So, let's use that maybe. Camera itself is a little out of reach to adjust, but maybe that angle will do for now. Everything's still warm. I don't know what to do with this case. I might hold on to it, although it doesn't seem like the thing that's likely to be that useful in the future. Ah, nicest GPU in the house. This is a GTX 980. Not the nicest you can get for sure, but I like it. I had to kind of mangle this Dell enclosure a bit to give that enough room to fit. So we have two SATA headers, which I'm using for the spinning and solid state disks. There was originally an optical drive in here, but I didn't bother having it. We have some front panel USB headers. Front panel audio, which I don't think I need at all. I don't know, maybe it's important, maybe it's useful, but I don't really care that much about front panel audio. I can certainly, like, I'm not really going to be plugging headphones into this machine. It just needs to have some path to route audio to the interface unit. That's one thing that would be nice to improve, is to have a digital audio path from the other computers into the audio interface. Right now that's all analog. Digital would have its own challenges with clocking, but it would be nice to not have the... Because, like, you end up with other problems with analog, like, you have ground loop issues, so I add transformers, but then the transformers have their own change to the spectrum response. Alright, good old motherboard. This just has one fan with a tachometer. Alright, I think about ready for the power supply to come out. I can still kind of remember the first time I worked on a PC. I think it was a 386. It was something my dad store-bought and then ended up taking apart to upgrade later on, and I would watch over his shoulder. He was very meticulous about it. He would, I mean, you couldn't just like video or take photos so easily, but he would still do stuff like that. Like, he would, I think this was when you had like VHS camcorders. He had this really clunky camcorder that I think he used to take documentation sometimes when he would take stuff apart. I think it was mostly for, like, you know, baby's first steps and that kind of stuff, but I guess I remember the other stuff more. I've got, like, hair right in my face. Let's see, 725 watt power supply, which just on its own would give the UPS some work to do. That is SATA power and more SATA power. Alright, power supply get with its big old fan. The parts in this machine were a mix of fast, quiet, and cheap. At least that was my intention. Should I take this fan? I think I'm going to take this fan. So this one has the tachometer lead, whereas the fans in that case don't. I think I might replace both of the back fans with this one. And then I don't know if I end up needing to use both of the front fans. Alright, another fan. I think we're at a good spot to take the motherboard out now. Oh, there are Wi-Fi antennas in here. I really don't care about wireless, so I think I'm just going to take the Wi-Fi card out of this and put it in my spare parts bin. Actually, could I take the antenna with me? If I'm not really going to need this case for anything, I might take the antenna out of it also. I don't really need Wi-Fi for anything in the rack, but having a mini PCI Wi-Fi card seems like a useful thing to just have. And I might as well take the antenna out. Let's get a better view there. I need to get a tiny screwdriver anyway. Oh, Sean in chat is saying that cross brace in the case might be a problem during install. It looks like it comes out pretty easily if I need to take it out. It looks like it might be annoying, but I think even the GPU could probably get in around that, but I think we can take it out if we need to. Alright, this is the CAD machine closer up, and that's the Wi-Fi card that I don't really need. Clip, clip, clip. I might as well leave the screws, because otherwise I'll never find the screw again. Oh, there's only one screw. So yeah, I'll leave the screw, but take the... Is this attached to the case or directly to the motherboard? I think that standoff is either screwed or soldered directly onto the motherboard. So yeah, I think leaving the screw here is the right thing to do. This was the computer I was having some intermittent problems with booting also, so I already know I can find the documentation for this motherboard pretty easily. I think it was a sort of custom motherboard for Dell, but the documentation is easy to find still. So there's the Wi-Fi. And then I'm going to take this. Oh, video feedback. So these are the antennae. It looks like it's mostly adhesive. Wow. It's got a Wistron part number. We'll take a closer look at these. Let me get these out. It is a combination of just a little bit of metal crimping and a sticker holding these on. this one was crimped a little more than the other one was. I don't know if one of these is a Bluetooth and one of them is Wi-Fi, or if it's just antenna diversity for Wi-Fi. There we go. I need to get a little less gentle with that particular clip. Now, I don't think I can get these through without unconnecting them. Oh yeah, this is labeled main and alt, and this chip is just LAN. There's no Bluetooth on here. So, tiny little wireless card. And this is another source of tiny coax. I might put these, I don't know, I'll probably keep them with like Wi-Fi accessories, but I can see taking these apart just for the coax. Oh, this whole thing has a sticker on it. This is as close up I can get in this camera right now, but let's go briefly to the desk. Nope. Oh, there we go. So that was the card I'm taking out, and we got those two little UFL connectors for the two antenna. And each of the antennae, we have two different color coax, which makes me think maybe they're different frequencies. OW5, F, or W9. These are the same part number. And then on this side we can see manual focus time. Withdrawn. So I think these are just two identical except for wire color antennas. Oh, there's a small difference in part number. ACON AMM6P70033 and 32. Interesting. And this thing, it's a weird little antenna. This metal piece right here is the antenna itself, actually. This little curved bit of metal. That's interesting. Tuco seems to like it. All right, Tuc, stop that. Okay, what's next? Motherboard. Oh, this hard disk cover thing already just fell out. I guess I might as well take the hard disks out, and then I'm just done with this case, because there's nothing else I need in it. I mean, besides the motherboard, of course. So SATA cables. This is my terribly mounted SSD. It's just like hanging out by the side. I don't think I had a 3.5 to 5.25 adapter handy when I put this together, which might be a problem for the new case also. That was something I was thinking, oh, can I 3D print this? And then I just hacked it. So that's the one that Windows is installed on. This one, I think, is mostly games and video recordings. Oh, this one's also holding on by one side, which is less good for a mechanical drive. I think the spot that was supposed to be for 3.5-inch drives in this case ended up kind of being eaten up by the GPU, which is a little bit weird. Alright. And motherboard. Let's get another little anti-static spot for the motherboard to hang out in. Oh, the screws have helpful little arrows labeling them all. I have 1, 2. Oh, do we have to take off the heatsink? That's not going into the case, is it? I guess we'll find out. I assumed the heatsink was attached directly to the motherboard. That's the way I'm used to it working. But I thought I heard something about that not always being the case. Little tiny audio interface over there. I can see the little RA Link crab thing, whatever that logo is supposed to be. Oh no, that's Realtek, sorry. Yeah, the Realtek crab. Is that loose yet? Looks like it. It's so little, and it runs Rhino so well. I mean, I guess that's partly this GPU's fault. Well, I think that's an empty PC case now. I'll put the panels back on it just a little. Something like that. There we go. That is the CAD hole. The CAD hole will have to move. So that, and oh, I was looking for the cover for this, but it's actually under the audio interface. So that's fine. I can put this the rest of the way together later. Alright, so now we've got some computer guts, motherboard, graphics, and storage. And then over here we have where it's going. So yeah, this comes off. This is actually really sturdy looking too. This is aluminum extrusion. Wow. That's nice. And then here's all the front panel stuff, pretty well labeled. It's got USB 2. It's got a bunch of switches and LEDs. That's nice. And here's the front again. Oh, that's not a magnet. That's just a hole that's a little bit over where it's supposed to be. We have a bunch of 3.5-inch bays, a handful of 5 1/4s. No 2.5-inch, of course, but I think we can probably make do. So first thing is, let's just make sure the motherboard fits. Oh, are we going to need to steal or bring the back plate with the motherboard? I think that might be important. Let's steal that from the old case while we're doing that. Oh, how do you get those off without bodily injury? It's a little small of a screwdriver to be using for this, but it was handy. Okay, that should snap in here if it's all standard. Yay. And let's see how well this all fits after I ground myself again. Now I'm just looking for all the standoffs to match up with the motherboard holes. I think I'm going to have to move some of these. That one moves over there. I think I want to get some pliers. This case has so much extra space in it. I'm sure this case, well, I'm reasonably sure this case will last me longer than the computer in it, but we'll see. I had this full tower case that I was really into a long time ago, but now something like that just seems really excessive. The machine that I had, like in high school, it was a full tower, but it didn't have that much hardware in it. I think it was mostly just so that I could fit like LEDs in it mostly. So we got those two, we've got that one, that one. I think I want that one to move there. I think there might be one less standoff than I would really prefer. I might just see if the box that came with this has any spares. I also might just have some that are the right height. Alright, so then those two, that one next to the memory. So yeah, these two farthest right could actually use, oh, here they are. Great, I'll just move those in. Perfect. This is very flexible. This will fit some really large motherboards, which this is not one of. So, where do these go? This one moves right here. And that one goes right there. So now I should be able to cross-check this by looking at all these screws and making sure I actually have a place to put a bolt in. These little grounding fingers have to make it over the connectors before the board will fit fully in place. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think. It looks like they're all good. Got all the motherboard screw holes we need. Now we can start putting these in. Is this not the right kind of screw? This might have been something case related. Is this the right kind of screw? Yeah, no? Does this case just use different screws than I'm used to? And did I just take the stand off? I think I did. Yeah, these screws are not the right kind. Let's check the box that came with this case. That standoff needs to be tighter. Case. Right, this is what it came with. That's a lot of motherboard screws, I think. Oh, and some more brass standoffs. Nice. So I could try even testing some of these in the standoffs to see. It's not that one. I think we want these finer pitch screws with the kind of pan head washer built in. I need to put these somewhere where they aren't going to immediately fall out of my hand. It would be cool if I had more of these little... Oh, here's one. Okay. There we go. So we've got 4 of the top cover. We've got those. I think it's this, but let's check. Yes. Okay, those are the motherboard screws. Not really sure how to describe these. They're machine screws with like a washer built in. So it's kind of like pan head. I've got to get those fingers lined up again. not sure what the easy way is to do this. Like getting all these fingers pushed up into the right position. There we go. Lined up. I need to loosen these. And tighten this one. That's better. A little tricky to get all the screws lined up, but then you want to do that before tightening on any of them completely. I will have some wireless in here, because I have wireless microphones, I have some wireless controllers, like the Steam controller. I try not to rely too much on wireless around here, but there are a couple of things. So I think for those, I might want to find a way to mount the antennae for those on top of the rack. So I'm thinking for the audio receivers and the video receivers that I put those on top, like maybe where the pole mount is. Maybe something similar for the Steam receiver and any other Bluetooth stuff I have. I haven't been using wireless at all for the keyboard on the Mac Mini, even though it supports it, because it's just not at all the signal strength it needs to be. But maybe if I had a better positioned antenna, it could be. Okay, I think that's all the screws. I'm just going to go back and tighten them now. Not too much, but kind of snug. Okay. Power supply. This case is exceptionally roomy. I feel like I could fit 2 computers in here. Well, depending on what you mean by computer, I'm sure you could fit a lot of computers in here. I mean, that's kind of the point of rack mount stuff, right? So I think these big kind of coarse pitch screws are for the power supply. Yeah, I wonder if I can 3D print a 2.5 inch to 3.5 inch adapter. Seems like the kind of thing I should be able to get away with without much mechanical strength or whatever. I mean, I often just don't even bother with the adapter and hang it by one side, but that's not especially great. This is not a good screw. Let's try this one. Or maybe the slot in the power supply is just a little stripped there. All right, well, that's in. ATX 12 volts. Let's get these out of the way and then see if the GPU will fit. It might be wise to put the hard disks in before the GPU, but it would also be nice to have the hard disks in a position where I don't have to take out the GPU to get to them. So maybe putting the GPU next is fine. So it would go in here, and I need to take out these two slot covers. That's nice and roomy. Wow, I could fit all sorts of stuff in here. The other PC has more... Well, I don't think it has a ton of slots, but at least it has that DeckLink card in it. And a GPU. This might be difficult to get the connectors in with. I might have to take the bar out to get the power plugs in on the GPU. Oh, that is just really nice. That whole, like, check out that cross section. That's not going anywhere. Get the cat hair out of the power connector. This is the GPU power. Oh, that fits. It's just tight. It's compressing the wires a little bit, but not so much I'm uncomfortable with it. Yeah, so this is just going to end up... You know, actually, I should put... These two connectors are slightly different. One of them has wires going into and out of it, and the other one is single direction. So if I swap these, then the large one will not be under the bar. Having something so big like this with a tiny PCI connector on the bottom just seems so weird. That's better. That's much better, actually. Cool. Oh, that's cool. It looks like this is also designed so you can anchor cards to the bottom of this if they support that. That's really nice looking. Probably some really pro cards that end up needing that. Alright, well this is getting close to done. It mostly just needs the discs. I think I might want to take a break in a sec. But I can always come back to this. That's interesting. These little oh, I'm sorry about the loud. These little buttony things over here are kind of weird. This one is kind of popped up and doesn't have a tab connecting, but most of these have a tab that's retaining the button down. Some of these don't either. That's weird. Oh, connecting all of this stuff to the motherboard is going to be somewhat annoying and require some trial and error, probably. So yeah, a few more steps to get this working. Need to mount all the discs I care about. I guess that could go in through the front or the back. Oh, these disc caddies actually pull out backwards. How is that supposed to be convenient? Does this whole thing come out somehow? I don't know if that is supposed to be convenient. I mean, they make rack mount cases with front mount disc bays, obviously. I didn't get that option because I didn't need it for this machine. So it might just be that these are kind of inconvenient to use, but I could use the ones next to them, and that's probably fine. I guess I also never took off this little EVGA sticker thing from my GPU. And now the sticker underneath it is trying to come off. Anyway. I might also check Thingiverse for 2.5-inch drive adapters. Yeah, if I pull out like this one, that's kind of easy to get out. Oh, and these are the kind without screws. They just have these little rubber things that press into the side of the disc. So like this. Well, this definitely won't work with 2.5-inch discs without an adapter then. I sure thought I had some adapters around here somewhere, but I think they might have gotten embedded in some other project. So maybe I should look for some on Thingiverse. So yeah, there's a hard drive. That'll do for a hard drive. I could definitely see wanting to put more hard drives in this machine. These are not where I store like footage long term, nor do I want them to be. But this is where I record stuff during streaming, so... Well, this one isn't specifically. This one I use for CAD, but the other computer that'll be going into this same kind of case is one that I might want to put more disks in. How does that stay locked in? Is that supposed to snap if I push it farther? Yes, there we go. It's a subtle snap, but it does snap. So yeah, if I wanted to use, like, say, this one for the SSD, could I use the screws? Are there any other options? Like, can I screw that down on there? Not really. I could tape it, but that's excessively janky. So yeah, maybe I take a break and either look for a 3D printable adapter or see if I have one in my stash here somewhere. Where's the cat? Hey, Chico. And catch up on chat briefly, see if there's any questions I can answer before wrapping this one up. Oh, is the chat on the machine scrolled up? Whoops. Let me see if I can go over there and fix it. Yeah, I didn't notice that being kind of far away from the desk, but that would be annoying. There is a workaround that I've seen sometimes fix it, where you can, if you use the feature in Gitter where you go up and edit your message, then sometimes it can bring it back. But I can also just refresh the browser over here. Is that going to bring it back? Whee! Oh, cool. Well, it looks like Microhex already looked for me and found some on Thingiverse. Maybe we can get one of those started printing before we wrap up. Is the 3D printer available? It is. Cool. Well, I would normally do this next part from the CAD machine, but let's see if I've got Type A Kira installed on Fishbowl. If not, I will do it from some other machine somewhere. I know I have the software installed on my editing box. I just don't have that one set up for video capture. There we go. Hey, Tuco. Oh. Ooh, a couple choices it turns out. Oh, that looks nice. That looks nice too. Hexagons are cool though. This case already has kind of a hexagon theme, and I'm really into hexagons, so maybe we'll try this. Do I have the right Type A Kira on here? I do. Sweet. Thanks for finding that. Let's get that started printing. Seems like what we want. So these will have to fit in those little press-on things that we've got, but I think that'll be all right. And then we have room for real screws in the bottom. Okay. That looks fun. Let's send that, and then I need to go in there and take the stuff off the build plate and start this print. The stuff that sends this is pretty unreliable. It often says that it fails even when it works. I was also hearing a weird echo, and then I realized the headphones with the monitor were pointed directly at me, so I was hearing it kind of long distance. Did that actually work? Can't tell if that worked. Let's just save this to disk. I think this dialog box is not actually working. I'll update that later. Okay, let's go get the printer started. Got some more boxes. Oh, I almost forgot I was on the wire. Well, I did actually forget I was on the wireless headset and that you could actually hear me in there, maybe. Assuming the signal didn't drop out. 2 goes back in his usual spot, which is nice. Got some more of these boxes to hang out with. Microhex says, worst case looks like you could totally just zip tie a drive into. Yeah, I've done that before. That wouldn't be the worst thing with an SSD that's not moving around much. So, I've also got this power distribution thing. I haven't been quite sure where to put the smaller things yet. My inclination is to put, well, I know I'm going to have, I think, the audio interface and the network switch occupying, like, maybe the front and back half of the top U, but power distribution seems like maybe it goes somewhere in the middle so that the devices can get access to it pretty easily. Some things can plug directly into the UPS, but I also wanted just a row of outlets for the smaller devices to go into. But that seems like something that's easier to figure out later. I like the idea of putting in the larger things first. So, what was my tentative plan for this? I had written up at least a little DaveCAD document with some plans for this. So UPS in the first 2 U's, and then I was originally thinking 2 5U PCs, because I was planning on just taking these cases and putting them on shelves, and that was going to take 5 U's. So this saves me an entire U and makes it a little easier to maintain. And then I think I was going to have another... Well, on my document here, I have 2 more shelves that are labeled as PCs with 4U. I think one of those was going to be the Mac, well, the 2 Macs, and the other one was going to be like the Linux box or some combination of those. I think I might be able to fit all of that on a single shelf, but we'll see. Some combination of shelves and computers. The 2 Macs and the small Linux box are all going on shelves somehow. So I also want to 3D print, as awful as that Mac trash can is, you know, I do actually want to rack mount it somehow. I think that involves just laying it on its side on a shelf, but people sell rack mounting adapters for it, but they're stupidly expensive, and I don't want to throw more money at this machine that I don't actually want to have in my life for that many more years optimally. So I think 3D printing an adapter for that sounds like the right way to go. Sounds like the printer's making some progress. Whoa, we got some JPEG artifacts. I wonder where those are coming from. Oh man, a new kind of glitch. Let's see. Microhex asked, did you get a power distributor, aka a giant power bar that mounts to the side? Yeah, I do. This one, you can mount it to the side, or it'll take up a U, or like a half a U. I don't think I have room to use the side mounting option in this case because of the way it has sides, like doors on all the sides. But yeah, I've got this kind of a thing, like a power strippy sort of thing. So that'll probably go in the middle, maybe kind of alongside some other equipment that's using up just half of a 1U. I don't know why we're seeing some network glitches. That's looking like it's getting partial JPEG frames there. Oh yeah, at least the old tower. Yeah, the old Mac tower, you could actually put your own rack mount ears on it, which was kind of fun. But so the question about the 3D printer model, this is a Type A Series 1. I don't know why we're seeing JPEG glitches, but I might blame the network on that one. So that's going to print away. I think this might be a good time to wrap up the stream for now. It looks like we've been going for about 3 hours, which is certainly not the longest stream that I do, but it was enough to at least get some stuff started in the rack. I'll probably take a break and maybe get a bite to eat and try to do some more of this later if people are interested. So let me know how much of the yak shaving you want to see, because I certainly like just getting back to the electronics and streaming stuff people are actually interested in, but I know a lot of people have been asking questions about the setup, and so I figured this sort of rack stuff was probably a good opportunity to answer some of those and to share some of this some of this process. So Peter says, in a pinch, you can set the hard disk somewhere on the case sitting on a piece of paper to not short the electronics on the bottom. Yeah, these drives even are, like, they don't have a spare circuit board, so that's pretty nice. Or an exposed circuit board, rather. But yeah, I think having this little drive bay will be pretty nice. Man, that is a little bit too glitchy for me to want to watch right now. Is that still glitching out if you watch it in here? Yep. I think that might be something going funky with the network, or maybe it's just the camera. Interesting. Alright, well, maybe a little bit of cat to end this stream. Do we have cat available? We don't want butt cam, we want cat cam. There we go. Alright, well, I will see you folks next time if we end up doing more of this rack-related streaming. In the meantime, we'll probably try to get a bite to eat and take a little break from the computer-related fussery, but more of this soon, and more projects, as always. Happy hacking, folks. Oh, Microhex was trying to find a little stand for the Mac Pro. Yeah, I think I might try to make one. I don't remember if I tried looking on Thingiverse yet. I guess we can look really quick, but, well, I'll worry about that later. I was going to look again, but I was probably just going to have to make one. It was probably just going to be a curved side and a flat side, and that's probably about it. Sodium asks about the progress bar. Yes, this is bytes of G-code, which isn't the most useful way of measuring it, but it's what they do in Octoprint. Kira actually does a simulation where it tries to figure out how much time things map to, but Octoprint is just passing along G-code. It doesn't really know anything about the machine. So, alright, see you folks next time.